two guys on the first team. It's quite the honor. It looks like you guys have a great year ahead of you.
Well, I hope so. And it is really nice for those guys to be honored in that way, and I appreciate it very much. I'm sure they do. And it's a comforting thought when you have that kind of presence on your team coming back. Guard play is always critical, and we will try to milk them as much as we possibly can, but they're good guys.
Tell me a little bit about, practice starts tomorrow. What's the first thing you're going to hone in on for the first week?
I think always as you start your year, defense is always the critical piece. You're trying to put every piece together and really build a culture of the defensive play. One of the great things that the NCAA has done for us over the last number of years, though, is given us 2 hours a week with our guys. And so we've built a lot of that into the first couple of weeks of practice here. So it's not quite the same in terms of the excitement of actually getting out there first day of practice by the players and even by the coaches as well. So it's a little bit different. The dynamic is a little bit different, but it's still a lot of fun.
Well, you obviously have a really strong team returning. It's no secret, one of the stronger teams in the league. And what does your non-conference game mean to you? I know planning that schedule when you know you have such a strong team this year. What went into that? I know it's such a difficult project.
Well, the honest answer in all of this is that it's the same. Every year we're trying to do the same thing. We're not a team that buys games or actually takes guarantee games. We're trying to get home and home games. And for us to play Texas, Duke, Maryland, home and home, is really a terrific thing for our program. And then we've got opportunities to be in an exempted tournament. We're playing with great programs as well there. But anytime the staple of your program is really when you can get the quality of programs like we have coming back to Philadelphia to play us. So we've been really lucky with that. The real reason we do all this, though, is that from John Chaney's era, that was his mantra, and we're kind of, Temple basketball wouldn't be what it is without that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned to appreciate his whole mantras. When I did the whole 35th anniversary last year, I learned a lot about all that. So it seems to be working.
Yeah, he's a great man, and he doesn't come around enough. He only comes when you ask him to come around, but he's been a great friend and a great mentor to me.
And how about the difference between non-conference and conference? I know a lot of people say it's a completely different season almost. How does your preparation change for those games?
I think in terms of the conference, you pretty much know each and every player and each and every coach and their history and the way of doing things. The non-conference, you may not know them quite as well, so it's a little bit different. It seems like it's more of a hit or miss thing as opposed to in the conference. When you get in that, it's almost a studying of every move and every possession. Mm-hmm. And in the non-conference, it's you're in the game, you're out of the game, preparing for the next one, but it's not, the studying is not quite the same. That's how I'd probably answer that question.
And a couple general questions about the landscape, like I mentioned, 2 of which are those potential proposals floating out there, the first of which being the cost of attendance potentially being added to the scholarships. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think it's a positive move? How do you think it might affect your program and the way you run things?
Well, I think that there has to be some balance put into that, so cost of attendance can't be so out of proportion to somebody else within your league. It's going to have to be a league-wide thing. Do I want to see the kids have an opportunity to not spend as much money? Yeah, I think that's good, but I think we have some built-in ways of helping the student-athlete who is from a disadvantaged background, for example, who might qualify for more Pell Grant money. There are some things in place that can make it very seamless, this change that we're going to make. But is it all going to work out perfectly? I don't know that I have that answer. I hope that it does. But I hope that there's been so much talk of paying the student-athlete. That's a whole different world. And if it can be equal throughout school number 1 through school number 320 or 340, or how many Division I basketball programs, for example, we have, if the gaps are not different, then I think we have a chance of staying similar. If we have big gaps in there, then all of a sudden now that the gap between the power conferences and the ones down toward the bottom are going to be even wider, and I don't think that's what we're looking to do.
Mm-hmm. And then along the same lines as far as potential proposals, the idea of maybe altering the recruiting calendar and adding those days in April.
Sure.
Is that a positive move, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be good for us to at least have one weekend in April. I'm not sure we need two, but if we could have one weekend in April and take some of the craziness away from the July period, I think that would be good for us. And it also gets us a head start on seeing kids sooner, and it helps us as a college basketball group, but I think more importantly it helps the student athlete to allow him to maybe make a different decision sooner, and then he can get on with the rest of his recruitment process.
And the last question would be about the kind of the beast in the room of this realignment. You know, this constant realignment. Is there an end in sight? How do you think it's going to affect kind of college basketball?
Yeah, and I think obviously it's a football-driven realignment at this point, so I'm not sure what it means to the basketball parties within this, but we certainly have a lot to gain or lose from it. I think the interesting thing for me is it's going to take one school from League X to go to League Y, and now all of a sudden those dominoes are just going to be going around and around, and where it's going to stop. That's the big question of where you're going to be. Are you going to be able, when that music stops, are you going to still be able to dance? And that's, who knows where that's going to be, and I think all of us may be affected by that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. At this time last year, we were all asking the 35th anniversary questions, and we have such a strong league with such great, rich history. It's unfortunate we're even having this conversation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, and I hope no one gets hurt by all this. That's my biggest fear, that there will be some schools that might get hurt by it, and that's really not what you want. We have great programs, great schools, we have a great league, and all of a sudden now you don't want it to change. And but who knows where this is going to come from? And I'm like you and everybody else, we're reading and hearing, and who knows, you can't believe half the stories that you hear, but it's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, the last thing we'll do is the script. So if you could look into the camera for